Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 560. I am your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Matt, we're going back to the 1980s on a trip across the world in Yu Suzuki's Outrun. More on that later. First, Matt, I want to know, if you were taking a cross-country drive, which car would you choose? Money and time is no option.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I don't know.
You have a dream car? That's not necessarily the right answer for this.
I really don't. I stopped caring about that when I realized how expensive cars were.
Yeah.
My dumb answer says I would do an RV so that way I can bring video games along with me a lot easier.
That's a good answer.
But I want to be living my best Robin Williams lifestyle.
That's the Robin Williams movie you grab?
Well, I mean, he's in it, you know. Good old RV.
Enough, right? Yeah, it's in the name.
Isn't that literally the name of it? RV, right?
Yeah, you're right. I just forgot that it existed.
Oh, how dare you forget the classic RV movie.
His true legacy. I'll accept RV. Would you play an Outrun game where you drove an RV?
That would not be nearly as fun. And oh my god, imagine how wide you are with all the other assholes out there on the road. No way.
It'd be a rough time. No. For me, still today, do you know what my dream car is, Matt?
I don't.
It is like a 1989 or 90 Honda CRX.
I feel like I've heard you say this before, because I always joke about getting the Type R's in games.
This is the one that I want. Every Gran Turismo, everyone's like, oh, let's get this. No, dude, give me a CRX. And I will trick it out and whatever. I still I've looked them up in recent years. Should I just save up and buy one to have as just a Saturday car? I think the same way that people 25, 30 years ago were trying to rebuild old 60 Chevys and stuff. I'm how can I like the tactility of it, all the knobs and switches and.
Oh, dude, me looking in the background, I didn't even think about time and money. You could make a Warthog or a Wraith or a Batmobile or some shit like that. Give me the Tumbler.
Yeah. Oh, the Tumbler would be a really good. Yeah. It's funny because I started thinking about this question and thinking about the car that Sega used here for Outrun, and I thought I don't know any Ferraris that I like, but I did like the Murcielago, the Lamborghini from The Dark Knight. Mostly because Murcielago means bat, but also because it was a cool looking car until Bruce Wayne crashed it in the middle of that thing. And crashing expensive cars is something we have become all too familiar with that we will discuss this episode. With Outrun, developed by Sega AM2, published by Sega Enterprises, Incorporated, released in the arcade, first on September 25th, 1986. Matt, I went ahead and grabbed a couple of items here for us. Arcade machines, I don't know if you know this, they don't have a back of the box for us to read, but they did have arcade posters. And the official first U.S. poster, shout out to, and thank you sincerely to SegaRetro.org. If you need anything related to Sega, and I know it has retro in the title, but this is contemporary as well, SegaRetro.org. Imagine a Wikipedia that is just about Sega. And when you think of a game that was published by Sega or released on a Sega platform, you could find not only its page and get basic details about the game, but you can also get every single reference that's ever been cataloged on the internet. They have high-res PDF scans of posters and box art and game manuals, magazine ads. It gets really, really weird. So I found some really cool, like, Persona ephemera and things like that were all scanned in, like, quarter page write-ups in like Dengeki from 1998. Do you need that? They've got it. Anyway, so I grabbed this poster from there, and the Genesis box art. So thank you for that. But yeah, the poster for Outrun, outstanding, outrageous, out of this world. Sega Outrun. We have images here on the poster. Of course, at the very bottom, we see screenshots of 5 major stages in the gameplay, kind of giving you a nice look at what the game looks like. And then we've got images of the standard moving cabinet, the deluxe moving cabinet, which was the premier design here, and then the upright cabinet for the game. Because we like to read from the back of a box, I went ahead and grabbed the Genesis box for Outrun from its release. And from it, we can read: barrel down the straightaway and bank your way into turns as you master the world's most challenging race way. Race at top speeds toward the finish line. Enjoy such realistic features as acceleration, lane changes, diversified terrain, sudden curves, and much more. Outrun is not just a test of who can drive the fastest. It's also a matter of who can plan the best race strategy and execute it flawlessly. Each race is different and demands a new strategy. You agree with the back of the box, Matt?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What is Outrun?
Arcade. I don't want to say racer, but racer for all intents and purposes, because you're racing for checkpoints. And it's dodge the traffic.
It's not a bad definition. I have a different definition. Outrun is a video game about murdering your girlfriend because you did not hit left quickly enough.
I think it's about hitting left quickly, and I think it's about braking, but...
See, but then I've learned that braking is not even good unless it's you should really just let off the gas. I've learned a lot about Outrun, more than I've ever known, and I'm still not good at the video game after all this time. Why did Outrun make the list? Which is a question I'll ask myself, because this was my nomination for the list.
Not very direct.
I specifically, I put Outrun on the list when I was kind of looking through at, I'm trying to figure out when this one, I knew I wanted something from the arcade to be added to the list, and I wanted an experience that you could only get in an arcade, which it's funny because you and I ended up not finding the physical arcade machine to play for this, but I knew that, and I knew that there's a couple other games that are on my short list this year. Short list being the ones that we're actually going to play, not the...
I wasn't going to actually bring up the joke that I keep bringing up, but okay, sure.
Yeah, but I had to make it because I'm looking through the actual list that I have, and it's just... I have like my old note. I haven't updated it since last August, but I have all the stuff written out from like all of my plans, and it's just funny how far we've come. But I was looking at when we talked about Gravity Rush back in February, and we're talking about Jet Grind Radio later on this year, I started to think about new gameplay ideas, and when thinking about the arcade and what that meant, and the fact that there was like new hardware doing new things, I thought of Outrun. Of course, I think when you learn a bit about the development of Outrun, you know a bit more about what Yu Suzuki was doing at Sega, and Outrun's kind of the third in an evolution of arcade games, but I don't know, something special about Outrun. It just feels right. But I really liked the technological advancements that it made. And it was kind of I guess Afterburner was actually the final like coalition, or what am I trying to say? Not coalition. Just blending, or the final culmination. Culmination of the work done between Hang On, Space Harrier, and Outrun. But I think Outrun just kind of, I don't know, man. It did something special. So we'll talk about the game's general gameplay, its sound, its soundtrack, its visuals. We'll talk more about our specific experience, and then, of course, as we do with every game we talk about, we will rank it over at thefreecheese.com/thelist. So the back of the box kind of describes it a little bit, but and I think Matt did a good job at describing it before. But you are tasked. It is an arcade video game where you start at the starting line and you are getting to the finish line. But unlike most traditional racing games, you're really not racing against another opponent. You're simply racing against time and yourself and your ability to navigate through this world as quickly as possible. The one really unique element of this game is there are paths as you continue forward. So as you're driving along, you have to avoid traffic. You have to make turns and curves the right way. And inevitably, you'll reach the end of the section you're in. You'll be met with a split, left or right, and you choose left or right, and that takes you on a new path. What's really cool is you can choose each time to go a different way. You can try different combinations of things and see what works best for you.
I would put choose loosely. Sometimes traffic dictates that direction.
You're not wrong. Yes, traffic sometimes definitely tells you which way you're going. Or if you decide to fight against traffic and do it anyway, you're not going to make it through the next section. Despite your choice, the game chose for you. Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's not quite at the curve where you make the split, but just thereafter is when you hit a checkpoint that will add time back to your timer and sort of reset the clock for you to get to the next checkpoint. Matt, did you ever beat Outrun?
No, I did not.
Me neither. And I'm disappointed because I felt myself getting better, but then I felt myself regressing, and then I just never got there. And I was insistent on not changing the difficulty because the version that we played had different difficulties, and I never did it. And I'm disappointed that I didn't, but also I feel like, I can still have the experience. My first question about Outrun is how long did it take you to figure out that you needed to shift gears?
Right away, because I read the instruction manual that came with the Sega thing.
Yeah, so we should say we played primarily the port that M2 made for the Nintendo Switch, which is really great, but it also has a lot of different features. There's some extra songs in there. There are filters you can put on the screen. You can change the view space of the screen. If you wanted to go full screen, you can. If you want to keep it tight in the middle, you can. There's a lot of different view and customization options. You can switch up controls to fit your liking. But I find the default control scheme pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Easy to use. It's funny, dude. I think when I've played this before, I've played the Mr. port, the arcade port on Mr. Yeah. And I think by default that is in automatic. So I never thought about changing gears. Then I'm playing this one and I'm like, why do I feel like I'm like, and I couldn't even, if you don't change gears, I'm not sure if you ever did that. Why would you? Unless you're an idiot. You literally can't get to the first checkpoint. Your top speed just never hits enough to get through that first section and get to the checkpoint.
I definitely probably shifted down at turns to bring down my speed naturally, but I never did it for an extended period of time. The first time I didn't realize, I was thinking, even despite reading the instruction manual, I was thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it was just low high, and I fucked that up the first time. But yeah, that was the longest I went without knowing the exact way the gears worked in this game.
It took me 2 runs. 3 maybe?
So you top geared. You had my Top Gear experience from my childhood.
Oh yeah, just what am I doing wrong? Why I feel so slow? What? Yeah, just foolish. What do you see as major influences on Outrun?
I mean, I can see the influences Outrun, I can see past Outrun, but I don't know what led. My history is not good enough to see the influence to Outrun.
I don't even necessarily mean games itself. I mean, there's...
Oh, well, I mean, I feel... This feels like Miami without being in Miami. Nor ever being in Miami.
Yeah, it has very Miami vibe, especially when you look at the like front cover of it with the palm trees, at least on the Genesis version. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of that stuff, that first area, it all feels very Florida. Fun fact, in the lead up for making the game, Yu Suzuki requested that he get to take a trip through Europe.
Oh,
and
man.
Drove through Europe. I forget the exact route, but it was somewhere like from Germany down to Italy or something like that. Which is why we ended up with the Ferrari Testarossa as the main car, because right when they got down to the bottom, or partway through their journey, they saw some dude driving one just as it was being released, and they were like, well, there's the car for the video game. We've got to do that. But I think generally the thing I take away from like Outrun and the whole like vibe of the character, because you are driving the car, but you're technically playing as some dude with his girlfriend in a car. It gives me that kind of like 80s opulence, like to your point of like picturing like the 80s and the glam of that. Like you picture like a Don Johnson Miami Vice kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like that whole neon lights, and I don't know. Like I think people who have boats still probably dress like this, but like that kind of boat life living, that like opulence. That's the only way I that's sort of like, we've got money and we're out at sea. That's Outrun to me. That's that.
Yeah.
A bit of that flavor.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess in turn, what games do you think were influenced by Outrun? What ones stand out to you as ideas that...
I mean, Christ, you could probably go through the Yu Suzuki lineage, because don't we get Daytona?
True.
Isn't he like the Daytona producer?
True. He, Virtual Racer was... Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But like, so my biggest thing, I don't like remember when I played Outrun, and it's very possible that this is my first time playing it, because I get Cruisin' and Outrun mixed up all the time.
I don't think that's an incorrect crosswire to make, because they have that very similar vibe. I think especially Cruisin', like you are literally going from coast to coast in small races. I mean, the way the races work, it's beginning and end to each race, where this is one contiguous.
So, okay, maybe I very well could have played in an Outrun cabinet or something growing up, but I know for a fact that at least, at the very, very least, the first time playing Outrun is in Shenmue 1.
I love that. And they've got the good one, the deluxe moving cabinet in
Yes,
Shenmue 1,
of
right?
course, yeah.
I don't know that I've ever played in that one. In real life, I know I've played in the standard moving cabinet, and I've played at the upright cabinet. But the upright, have you ever played one of those upright driving cabinets?
Yeah, they're terrible.
They're not. Yeah, they just don't feel right. Even though I think it's more about your positioning, right? Like, because you're just not.
It's like awkward on your shin.
Yeah, you're doing a weird like a drum pedal thing that's not quite that even. It's a strange feeling. Playing Outrun, how do you feel it compares to modern racing games?
It's simple. I mean, it's not, but it's simple. It's pick up and play. And there's no like. You're not, I mean, you're picking the track in a way, but you're not. Like, you know what you're getting every time you put the hypothetical quarter in. You know you're going through Coconut Beach. You know it's introducing you to those turns, and you're going to have your first right turn, and then your next left turn. And then I guess in the overseas version, quote unquote, you have the double right-hand turn that goes into the chicane. Like,
I love that you've got.
Like I played Coconut Beach so much that I know like, but every run is the same, but it's not because traffic's different. And then, depending on what you want to do, you can mix it up yourself if traffic allows you, or, you can stick on the same path and like try to master the path, but you're never going to master it because traffic's always going to be in a different spot. So like as familiar as you can get the game to be, where I know the double right into the chicane's coming up and I'm going to fuck it up one out every 2 times, but I know it's coming every time.
Yeah,
it's familiar yet different every run, and it's not complicated. I think that's a lot of today's racing games. There's too much. They try to do too much to differentiate, just to differentiate themselves and get that unique feature, but sometimes it's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, I think of modern racing games in terms of, like, in fairness, I've not played like the grids or of the world or those or the dirt 5s of the world, and I probably should.
Well, I'm even thinking like more modern, or it's not. Sorry, like arcade modern cabinets. Like I feel like Daytona. You're probably in the same car, but like you're picking a track, and it's not necessarily the same thing. Yeah, I talked about that Fast and Furious cabinet. Did you know in the Fast and Furious cabinet you can double press the pedal to get like a little boost?
Same with cruising. Yeah, that was in
okay,
well, right?
yeah, like you have that feature in there, and you got the car selection, so you got to kind of figure out the car you like. There's the tracks, of course. You can do usually by easy, medium, hard, or whatever. But like I don't know. There's a lot. There's just a lot.
Yeah, and I think like if you look at where the arcade games have gone, they've definitely gone more. I think generally the arcade racing experience is put your money in, do a race, see ya. Having the head-to-head has been like a cool addition in the arcade space. In terms of like home console stuff, like the closest I think we get to a contemporary release that is less simulation is something like Forza Horizon 5 or 4, that whole Horizon series, but like those are so different. Like they're still about driving, but they're also like just about racing. And I guess since 4 they've just more done I guess all of the Horizons have always been kind of open world, find whatever. I just feel like 4 was the one that really went deep with it. Maybe that's just because it's, I don't know, the first one I played in depth, but yeah, I'm not sure. But to your point, I think Outrun it's nuanced, it's challenging, but it is simple. It's not complex, it's not complicated. It's
once you know how to gear shift.
Yeah. After that, it's still, you have to learn how to let off of the gas. You have to learn that braking is far better than crashing, which should be logically right, but you always, I found myself often just like, I can make this curve. And like, you can't make the curve, dude. Just slow down. It's much better. Ugh.
Can't muscle the car over.
Never works. Speaking of controls, the game itself, you've got gas, you've got brake, you've got shift, and you have steer. It's not any more complicated than that. To Matt's point earlier, you only have 2 low and high in terms of shifting. Playing through this, how do you feel the car handles or responds to your input? Because that, I think, is the most important thing of a good racing game is, do you feel like you are in control of the car?
Yeah, it's snappy. Yeah, the thing that was just, I think, this was my biggest thing. It's so weird to steer full tilt and keep the same mile per hour and not naturally drop. Especially as you're weaving through traffic and stuff like that. It took me a bit to realize this wasn't physics weren't applying to your car.
Not until you hit something, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, even then, some of the collision detection on some of those cars is wild.
Yeah, you can bump and still be all right.
But yeah, no, I would say that was the biggest thing for me. Like the handling felt fine. It was kind of like what I expected from an arcade. I know this is arcade, but like that arcade driving experience. But yeah, no, the weaving and not losing any speed was kind of weird for a few credits.
Yeah, that it's a strange. I don't know. There's elements of this that like the more you're in it, the more it feels natural, and then you kind of think about it for a second, it just feels completely off. But I never felt like the game was doing anything I didn't want it to do. I guess that's the important part about the controls. So going through, you are navigating traffic, picking your route, trying to optimize gas, brake, letting off the gas, downshifting where necessary. What's your strategy for playing Outrun? Where did you find success?
So I had the worst beginner's luck. I think I never went. We were keeping track of high scores daily. I hadn't played the last couple of days, so I don't remember where I ended up falling. But I think my first day high score beats any other high score I posted, and that was my first run, and I could never match it. And I don't know if I got a mindset or what, but I don't. So I don't know what I did on that first run that I just could never match again.
Because that was not your highest score by far. That was also higher than anything I'd gotten all the way through. I think my highest score was still like $100,000 shorter than $70,000 under where you were. Or no, 700,000. Sorry, these are in the millions. So yeah, your highest score was 7,388,160.
Which I think that ends for, if you don't know, we were talking about the branch and paths. There's 5 stages, and each, depending on where you go, I think my high score landed me like at the end of 4.
That
maybe
right.
Not quite at the split or right at the split, but not at the gate for the checkpoint. It ended up being short. I think that's where I fell.
That sounds right, because my high score was 6,684,600, and that happened. I crashed in the middle of stage 4, and time was just gone, so I didn't finish stage 4. That was the furthest I ever got, and the highest score I got. So if you finish stage 4, but not didn't get quite into the next trigger, then I think
it was somewhere around there. That
sounds right. Yeah. So what was? Do you know what happened well then? And what
I think I was just trying to keep the car on the road. I wasn't trying to because I didn't necessarily know. I mean, I kind of took a good guess of how the fixes were, and after I'm not going to sit here and say it took me 50 turns to realize the intricacies of the physics. It takes like 3 turns, and you kind of understand what's happening. I think just in that though, all my the sim racing instincts kind of kicked in and was like, all right, well, here's a turn, let's brake a little bit and test the water. So And I think I was just staying on the road, and I think I had just good RNG too, because I remember all my crashes were not cause of vehicles; they were I took a turn way too hot and I fucked up.
Yeah.
I think that was the difference, because definitely. After that, I started. I'm like, all right, well, I can take this turn full speed. I can take this turn full speed. And then it's just, I got trigger happy on the gas.
Of course. Did you find that? Did you find yourself starting to bail on runs if you crashed a second time?
Early, very early. My typical thing was that chicane. In Coconut Beach.
Yeah.
It was, if I crashed before then or at the chicane, I was usually restarting the run.
Got it. I think for me, the cutoff was if I was somewhere in stage 3, even if I hit the point where I knew I was not going to hit the checkpoint for stage 4, I'd run it through anyway. But stage 2 earlier, if I hit a second crash, I was restarting, because I knew there was no way I was going to make it to the end of the run. And those are things you sort of start to pick up as you play the game. You just know okay, I can get away with one crash, but a second crash, there's really no making up for it. You've just lost too much time.
I've gamed. I
now
mean, if you have a very very clean sector or stage, sorry, like a clean stage, you can get back a few seconds. I did have that one time.
Yeah, you definitely can. Yes, certainly.
It's tricky though. Like it has to be flawless.
Yeah, and it's not always easy to pull off flawless because even as good as you can be, if you feel like you really like tapped into it for a run, that traffic is so unpredictable. And traffic can... The interesting thing with traffic is, these are not actual 3D models, so there's not collision in that sense, but there's still a layer to them where they move lanes, they change lanes, and when that happens on the wrong turn, or the right turn in their case, you can completely throw everything off. Conversely, I had plenty of times where I just basically like clipped through the back corner of a car with no detection and I was fine. You can bump cars in the side and still make collision, but still be okay. So that's not always, you're not always completely screwed if you do bump somebody. But it's tricky. Did you have a good approach for dealing with traffic?
Hope and pray and kind of let Jesus take the wheel a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or let Jesus take their wheels out of my way. I mean, because there's usually like this traffic that stays generally in like their lane and maybe drifts a little bit. It's the assholes that are like cutting across like 3 lanes back and it's like zigzagging.
Yeah.
It's
and they do it either out of nowhere or after you've already... Usually you hit a point in your gameplay where you see movement happening or not happening and you decide, or you know, I'm good if I go this path. And it's when they deviate from your expectations that really just screws everything up. I want to talk about the visuals of the game in a bit, but I want to start first with the sound, because I think the sound is something in Outrun that is so iconic and something that is so... it's just lasted for a really long time. It pops up in other Sega games. The Sega Picross that Jupiter put out on Switch, the main song you play while you're doing Picross is Passing Breeze. You're just the whole time. It's iconic. So the music was composed by Hiroshi Kawaguchi. Kawaguchi previously wrote sound for both Hang On and Space Harrier before composing for Outrun. The interesting thing there is that he was brought on early. This is back in the days where kind of everybody had every job on a game. You just ended up on a team and where you could help out. You obviously had specialties, but it's not like today where you have specific sound.
Yeah, you have a bushman.
Right. So he kind of just did some sounds and then made some music and then ended up like really growing into his own and making some of the most iconic Sega songs in history. But the original arcade release had 3 tracks: Magical Sound Shower, Passing Breeze, and Splash Wave. Of those 3, or even the version we played on Switch added new tracks, did you have a favorite of those?
I can't even remember, besides probably Passing Breeze, like which ones which. Passing Breeze is number 1, right?
That's the main, yeah. As soon as
if
you start
you
around,
tap right
there.
to the once, is that Splash Wave?
That's Splash Wave.
I think I was going to Splash Wave a lot.
Yeah, same. Splash Wave was really good.
I liked them all though. There was I think I trended towards Splash Wave. I was constantly like going back and forth, and I liked the way like the radio station changed and like the different cassettes went in for the bookends.
Yes. Very good. The what I ended up doing with this, so we started a little bit in our, just for the a little behind the scenes for the listeners. We try to typically keep a Discord channel per game, per episode we record, so we can just track notes or a little, coordination back and forth about the game. For this one, we did something different where we started tracking our daily high scores, because I found it effective with a game like Outrun in the lead up to this to just kind of keep playing it in little bits. Not spending, because Outrun's not a game you can sit and spend 6 hours in one sitting and play, right? But you can do a couple of runs and move on. So it became fun to kind of like wake up in the morning and then over coffee, do a couple of runs. And then before, diving in to play other stuff in the evening, just do a couple of runs there as well. And I found myself, when I knew I had longer stretches of time to play, my approach to playing Outrun on the Switch version was start the game, tune the radio all the way to the left to go to that far left tape.
Oh, and hit.
And then every run, I would just do a different song until I'd gone all the way through. Unless I like bailed midway through a run, I would redo a song. But otherwise, I'd do all of that. And then my high score out of that set was the one that I would drop in our Discord for, my daily run. Which became a fun thing. And honestly, like, I think that's the thing I'm going to miss about not like leading up to recording, because it was fun doing that kind of approach for the game. And fun playing this game that way, I think. Visually, so you said Miami. Can you see now, knowing that Yu Suzuki toured through Europe, that this had a big European influence visually on the game?
Yeah, I could see some of that in some of the in some like the later stages.
But there are sections that look like, until I knew that factor, there's a stage, I forget which one it is now, but it looks to me like cornfields, but I guess it's not cornfields. It's more something else. Like maybe it's meant to be Holland or something.
Yeah, like is it wheat? There's.
Yeah. But
it is
knowing
wheat.
that, like, you can.
It is.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but you can see like the Swiss Alps. You get these other like things that just sort of feel like Greek architecture or things like that. I don't know. Daikatana vibes, if you will.
Yeah, but there was like I could see the European influence, but I was like totally fooled by, this could have easily mapped this to, the United States, because like Coconut Beach, like Florida coastline,
yep.
Obviously, and then like Devil's Canyon. I was just thinking you were going through a portion of the Appalachian Mountains on which are on the east coast of the United States. Like desert, like barren wasteland, Midwest. And, you could fit the narrative in some ways. One of the last stages even called Death Valley, which is close enough to the
Death Valley.
I was going to say to the West Coast. It was close enough.
Yeah. Visually, I'm going to talk about the car and stuff. Is there anything about the visuals that stood out to you? Level design, the other cars, the traffic, things like that?
No, it's just, why do we have the old grand 5-lane freeway, and all of a sudden we get to these stretches of road that have like 2 lanes? It's like, more lanes, you can push more traffic. That's what I'm trying to say.
But just like a real highway, you've got to, widen and narrow as the road takes you.
I say blow out more of that mountain. That's what I say.
Kill them all. The Ferrari Testarossa is it is the car of the game. What do you think it does for the game?
It immediately screams go fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Even if you didn't know what that car was, it has that look of a sports car, and it's like, what are you gonna do with your girl with your top down in a sports car? You're gonna go fast.
You're gonna go fast. The other side of it too that's funny is, like, even if you knew the Ferrari, like, from what I understand, the Ferrari Testarossa did not have a convertible. And the original release of it only had one mirror on the side. So if you look up pictures of it, like, it looks almost nothing like what we got. Apparently they did, like, right as the arcade game was coming out, they did release a limited edition that was a convertible, but it was not the original one that they saw. They just decided for the game, well, you can't cruise with the top up. You gotta take the top down.
Cruising. We're cruising.
Exactly. But yeah, I think you're right. It makes you want to drive fast and hold your foot on the gas and not let up. Which leads to the horrific crashing, which that's another thing, like, the design of that whole sequence, whenever you crash, and there's different levels of crashing. There's spinning out, there's a crash that's kind of bad, and there's like the one crash that like throws you out of the car, just rolls the car several times, and then just like anything, you get up, brush it off, jump back in the car, and keep going, right? That's how
yeah,
life works.
Yeah.
The look of Outrun, the sound of Outrun, even just the name Splash Wave, they've all gone on to inspire this whole genre of aesthetics that people sort of have built an identity around. For you, what does the overall look and feel of the game do for you?
Even knowing these questions ahead of time, spoiler alert for our prep, I still struggle with this answer because my gut answer wants to say like this reminds me of this whole genre, this whole race for the checkpoint, and even the games you are pseudo racing others, you are still racing a checkpoint, like going into Daytona USA and going into other single player racers where you're not competitive, you're not going against other people and you're playing by yourself. You're still racing checkpoints to stay in the race. And this, like, it feels like this whole art style and the sound and like in Cruise, like other games have matched this too. And like again, I keep saying Cruise and I keep getting them mixed up. It feels like the birth of this genre that is going to probably be here forever. Honestly, I don't see it going anywhere. The arcade racer is such a pivotal anchor of a good arcade. If you don't have one of these, you're missing a critical point. It's like if you don't have a racer or a light gun game, you're kind of fucked in your own arcade. Like you're not helping. Yeah. You're not helping yourself.
How are you bringing people? Yeah, these are core staples.
And a DDR machine, as we mentioned last week.
And a DDR, yeah. Yeah, for me, like, generally, I think the whole vibe of it makes me just want to hang out and go drive somewhere. Like, it's a good hangout kind of game. And it gives me summer vibes, even though it's not always a summery look. Obviously, the beginning stage is, but just, like, that idea, that appeal of it all is kind of like that. And, like, I don't know, I've taken a couple of road trips for several...
Well, I would argue that it keeps a summery vibe because the convertible never goes up.
No, it never does. But there's definitely spots where it looks like it should have.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But you're going so fast that the air just shoots right over you.
Past you.
Yeah.
Never even comes down into the car.
Never.
Yeah. Is there anything else with Outrun, your experience with Outrun, that we didn't cover that you want to discuss here?
Oh, man, that coconut beef chicane, man, is a motherfucker.
Every time, it's so weird because, like, it's the only stage that has something that brutal. Everything else has stuff that throws you off, that will murder you and literally throw you out of the car. But, like, something about that one in particular. Maybe it's because the game, I don't know. That area just seems so innocent, and that part is not. That part is so demanding that just gets me every time. But yeah, it never gets easier.
It's that, and I love you can definitely tell where where the level designs were put in to be your quarter suckers. The blind turns, like you're coming up the hill, and then all of a sudden you're throwing a left-hander, and like unless you know it's there, you're fucked. Unless you have great reaction time, which no.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like the stuff like that, and yeah, no, my play sessions with this game usually ended up being like 30 to 40 minutes. I was just like, in my back of my head, I was just thinking like, man, if this was like 50 cents a game, I'd be throwing money at this thing.
Oh yeah.
And you know it's addicting because you're like, oh man, that was the run. I fucked up one time in this one area. All I gotta do is just remember on the third turn, it's a left, and I got it. And you go in there, you can't get through the coconut beach chicane, and then
see, that was the thing too. Like I told you, my approach was like, let's run through the whole soundtrack, and then I'm done for the day. And there'd be so many times where that final run or that penultimate run would be like the one that felt so good that I'm like, all right, let me throw in Passing Breeze and just do one more. I'll refill my coffee, Coffee's been done for 4 or 5 rounds, but let me refill that, and I'm doing one more. And yeah, just it never ever hits. Have you looked at any of the sequels to Outrun, or have any of them piqued your interest? If you have.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I don't know what's what I played. I don't remember necessarily what I played growing up when I did play these, like which ones in particular. I don't know if I played any of the direct sequels to this game though.
There's a few.
I know there's a few.
One that,
I know there's a few.
There's some that went right to consoles, some that went to arcades. The one that stands out to me that I love a lot is I've played it most on PSP, but it's Outrun. What's the full title? Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast, I believe. Which is sort of like so they made Outrun 2 for the arcade and the Xbox. And that version, if you try and track down the Xbox version, as I have, it's really expensive.
Of course.
So, but then they made
Steel Battalion expensive?
I forget now. It was like enough that, because sometimes games are like just expensive enough where like it sucks, but you know that if you really, really wanted it, you would buy it. And then there's games that are like just past that where it's like, no, I cannot justify that. I'll just never own that or play that. But Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast kind of takes all of these updated things from Outrun 2 and Outrun 2 SP and puts it out on PSP, PS2, Xbox, and PC. I don't know where it's still available. I know it went offline for like PSP and 2 and all and PC. Like server wise, it's offline, but I don't know if you can still buy it on any of those platforms. But I played the PSP version, and that one is super fun. They have it's a lot of the same stuff that you recognize. Like you're still racing, you're still trying to impress your girlfriend. But there's like a game mode called Do Not Lose Your Girlfriend, where you need to like everything you do, you earn heart points in this. You like by doing dangerous driving, by doing different things like that, by hitting checkpoints, like it's all you're earning points. It's a fun game. It's developed by Sumo Digital, who did Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and they've done other racing games that rule. So it's good. I think they are now part of, maybe not. Maybe they're not part of Embracer.
Oh, well, make sure you're up to date with your Embracer news.
Well, I feel like they got swallowed up by something at some point, and maybe they're not.
THQ Nordic? Or aren't they just THQ now? Or is that Embracer nowadays?
Great question. Either way, that one's out there. That one's pretty fun. If Sega announces a new Outrun this year, they're bringing back all the old stuff, Matt. We're getting a new Jet Set. We're getting a new Crazy Taxi. Let's say they announce a new Outrun. Where do you want them to go? Where do you want to drive?
I think the correct answer should be the arcade.
Oh, fair. Yes.
Oh, you're talking like areas in the game.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you got to start in Miami. Proper. Palm Beach, maybe. Let's call it, instead of Coconut Beach, call it Palm Beach. And then, I don't know. You got to end in California somewhere. I guess there's multiple locations. Oh, you can go through the Strip in Las Vegas. That'd be interesting, because traffic's always a motherfucker there. Las Vegas Boulevard. I don't know what other landmarks. There's mountains. The Grand Canyon.
Yeah. You got to do the cornfields of Iowa.
Of course. Wasn't that more Nebraska? Because they're the Cornhuskers.
Oh, fair. Okay, yeah, we'll go there. I'm just thinking of Slipknot, as usual. I'm also thinking of a way to get Slipknot music into the game, but that's,
Yeah, Passing Breeze and followed by Slipknot.
And Hate, and what's the song called? I forget.
Oh, I don't know my Slipknot. I'm sorry. Not up to date.
Duality, that's the song.
Oh, well, you're sorry. I know that one.
Yeah. Wait and Bleed, that's the song I'm thinking of.
No, I don't know that one.
Did you say the Statue of Liberty?
Sure.
It's like a drive-through, New York.
Coney
You could
Island, get some
drive
hot
past,
dogs thrown at you.
Yeah. Crayola Factory over there in New Jersey. Why not?
Oh, you're asking for a sponsorship now. Things need to happen there.
Fair.
You could do like an off-green and white box. What says Yocola?
You can't give me stupid stuff that I'm going to spend the rest of my night photoshopping. I think what you do is you do Outrun 3, Like a Dragon, and you drive through all of the iconic locations that the Like a Dragon series has taken place.
So, it's just Japan and Hawaii, right?
I was thinking just the Japanese cities, but because, at some point in one of those games, I think in 5, you end up in Nagoya, and there's, the iconic Nagoya.
Oh, you're talking
Ferris
Yakuza
wheel.
as a whole. I was thinking a Dragon,
So,
those two.
I'm trying to adopt their new nomenclature.
Got it.
But yes, I think, for all of the Yakuza series, maybe we expand upon that. Maybe you start in Hokkaido and you drive all the way down to Okinawa and you see the whole Japanese coast. But I feel like if you want to keep it in-house Sega and do some sort of cross-promotion, right? Because then you can, maybe you buy Kiryu to drive as, right? Or something like that. I think, what game was it that had the Sonic the Hedgehog thing hanging in the rear view mirror?
Ooh, I don't know.
There was one of them, one of those Sega racing games. Might have been Daytona.
Could be. I could see that being the case.
I can't remember. But anyway. The future of Outrun is bright, of course. If we're designing it. But Matt, final word on Outrun before we rank it on the list.
We don't have one that hasn't been mentioned yet. I think it's just a simple... It's dismissive to say it's a simple racer, but it's such an easy pick up and play, but one of those that's a bitch to master, and and the fun somewhere in between of the learning, somewhere in between with the learning curve.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. Radmobile is the name of the Sega game. It's another racing game, but yeah, it's the first appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog, technically, in a released product. They threw him on there as a little dangler, because this game came out before Sonic did. Well, listeners, if you want to check out all of the games that we've ranked so far, all 95 of them, 96 of them, you can do that over at thefreecheese.com/thelist. Where do we like Outrun, Matt?
I like playing this game a lot. There's just... This is it.
Is there a but?
There's not... The but is this is it. That's...
Yeah.
You play Coconut Beach, and 90% of the game already.
Yes.
So it's tough. I mean, I like the way... It's one of those weird games where I think my fourth column reviewer score is lower than all the other categories because, I really like the way this game plays. I really like the way this game looks. Love the music and the sounds. I forgot to mention earlier with the sound effects. I like the I knew I was doing shifting wrong because of the sound of my burnout and how long it would go, and that led me to messing with shifting timing.
Okay, yeah.
But dumb stuff with the sound, like, you know, again, I think the sound's good. I think the music's good. I think it's all peak. It's all really good. It's just the game is what the game is really good, and it's just how much is there to offer past. You know, if we were in the arcade, you would throw a couple credits at it, and then you would probably walk away. Then the next time you're in the arcade, right?
Would you? Oh man, I think we have a new Devil's Crush. I think Windjammers 2 is my new Devil's Crush.
Okay.
And maybe that's because now we're at about 100 games, and Windjammers 2 is
right in the middle. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I like this better than Windjammers 2, but not as good as Super Mario Kart.
I think I'm above Super Mario Kart, but it's tough to put over Bomberman for me.
I'm good with that too. I think Super Mario Kart. No, I can't even say that. No, I think you're right. Outrun's easier to pick up and play.
I don't like playing Mario Kart that much. Like, at the end of the day, like, I hate turning in that game so much.
Turning doesn't feel good. And even though turning is a nightmare in this, and I'm terrible at it every time, I want to get better at it, where, like, Mario Kart, I don't care.
No, I would much rather... I'd much rather pick up and play this game, and we can't do 2 players or whatever, but sure, we could high score chase like you were doing for a week.
Yeah, all right, I like it. You want to throw it there then? The new number, would it be 50?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, done. Congratulations to Outrun and Yu Suzuki and team. Matt, I'm excited about next week. Listeners, if you've not seen, we'll be back next week with Ape Escape for the PlayStation. And the week after that, we're going to hit our halfway point through the season. So come back and hang out for all those things. And we did another live stream this past weekend, so go check that out. But we also have another live stream coming up later this month. So go to thefreecheese.com, check out all the details for those. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Thanks, Yu Suzuki.